Right, guys, we're live on Facebook today. Thanks for joining in. As you say, it's an interesting time at the moment. Obviously, we're in lockdown. Not really a great deal of cricket going on. But fear not, obviously, there's some great content going out there. I've seen some fantastic videos, ideas from different people. Lots of youngsters showcasing their skills and little drills they're managing to do at home, which is great. It's great that the cricketing community is keeping positive, and I think that firstly is what I really need to say, is that the key with all this is that you must stay positive. And from a health and well-being side of things, talking to each other and enjoying the few positives that the lockdown can bring, i.e. being around loved ones, close family members, etc., and actually working out the key things that really matter, I guess, to you all. So I hope everyone's staying healthy and well. Michael has joined us, obviously. I'm going to explain how today's going to work in a minute. Thanks, Michael. I'm going for the Hashim Amla look, actually. Short on top, beard coming. So, cheers, Scott. So today, basically what I've done is I've put an hour of time aside, and we've got a number of questions and topics that have come in to the work business account regarding coaching questions, playing questions, etc. So I'm aiming to get through as many of them as I can do. I know that Ben is watching this as well from his, obviously he's in lockdown at home in isolation. So Ben is also going to be around for some input and help give his views. But I hope that the following few minutes are useful to everybody and that you can at least take something away from the next few minutes. So basically I've been sent a number of topics to cover. They include, if I just go through them, under 9 and under 11 coaching sessions, player or coach led, I believe, and games for understanding. And I think that was from Michael. Coaching when we get back up and running seemed a big theme from a lot of people. I've had that request 4 or 5 times. So it looks like we may get some cricket June or July. ECB have said May the 28th. We just don't really know. But if we do get going June, July, or whenever it might be, and a condensed season, how that's going to look, how we might go about preparing our coaching sessions and also players for them games, how to be fully prepared when unable to train with pathways, etc. So I think that's more about moving back into an elite environment and how you might get integrated back into that on and off the field, I'd imagine. Preparing your kit bag for game days. It's an interesting one. You wouldn't have done that since probably last September now. Cricket at home. Any garden activities we can talk about. Things that you can do in the garden, inside, things like that. How have coaches coped with lockdown? That's an interesting one. We'll visit that as well. So that is really pretty much the agenda we've got. If any other question from the chat that you can make comments and put views on, please do add them as well, and I will endeavour to try and answer them, the cricket related ones. Okay, so the first question from Michael, looking at under 9s, under 11s cricket and games for understanding. Now, there's a big push on a coaching front to learn through doing, and the idea being that if you can set up a drill or practice that allows an individual or a group of players to get to a solution, we call this player-led, by themselves, then that is seen as it has been pushed, especially in the ECB, as the most effective form of coaching. Now, it's all very well, and in principle, this does work really well. Small games such as, or small drills, such as trying to find ways to hit ball into gaps, for example. Small fielding drills where you challenge players to get the ball back to the keeper as quick as possible. Not saying necessarily how, they have to find a way. Team drills, so you might have a middle practice and you might challenge players to, if you're coaching an under 9, under 11s game of Incredible or something like that, and you're doing a paired game, for example, and a lot of the lads are backing away and trying to hoik the ball, you might challenge them to only hit the ball on the offside. Okay, or you may challenge them to, you might draw a line behind their heels, and you might say, if you step over that line and that line is on leg stump, if you back away and step over the line, your team minus is 5 runs or something like that. So you're not actually punishing the guys necessarily for how can I put it? Errors in their like losing a wicket, or as you would traditionally, there's a forfeit associated to the skill base that you're trying to get over in that session. I hope that makes sense. So it can be very useful. Where it isn't interesting for me is that learning through games for understanding are great, but there has to be a point where coaches gain and deliver the knowledge to players. If a player doesn't know it, they're never going to know it. And I think that we can set as many games up for understanding. But if you've got a novice or beginner under 9, or even an intermediate under 9, and you set a specific challenge to them that involves a skill, and their skill level is not high enough, then unfortunately, my own opinion is that there has to be some kind of direct delivery of what I'd call coaching. There's a lot of what I see passive coaching, which is whereby, looks great, lots of cones, lots of different drills, let the players do it, let them play, don't talk at them. But actually, are they truly learning when they are just discovering all the while? So I think the art of it is a balance between games for understanding and doing the drill in a way that they see fit. And then there has to be a coaching element to the session, i.e. this is proven over time to be the most effective way to hold a bat, to keep the ball on the ground, to use your front arm more when you're bowling. There are fundamentals that you cannot get away from with a game like cricket. And I think that where the lines tend to blur, and I think Michael, being with his rugby background, is an interesting one because, and he might disagree, but cricket is, for me, a slightly more technical game. Rugby's got its technicalities, but I believe cricket is a more heavily technical game. And I think that's where in cricket you can get away with, in rugby you can perhaps get away with more sessions that are games for understanding. A lot of rugby coaches will say to me, this is really interesting, a lot of rugby coaches will say, we don't have half the behavioural issues at rugby training, and the kids all listen to me at rugby but they won't listen to me at cricket. And I think that's a really interesting point, and there's a couple of things whilst on that topic I think it's worth pointing out for you guys that coach rugby and cricket. Rugby in its nature is shorter in format, shorter, sharper. It involves all players at all times. I think that's really worth mentioning. And there isn't periods of the game where you are required necessarily to switch off for long periods of time. And by long, I'm talking a little bit more time than the ball just being kicked out of playing rugby. Okay, I'm talking a 2 or 3 minute break between a wicket. I'm talking a 35, 40 second break in between balls. So I think that the nature of cricket at that level under 9s, under 11s, at that level, the nature of cricket for me would suggest that there has to be a better balance between games for understanding and direct dictation to players and actually giving them coaching, direct coaching advice and giving them the answers, I guess. So I hope, Michael, that sort of helps answer your question on under 9s, under 11s games for understanding. If there is anything more on that you'd like to ask, please do just whack it in the comments section. I can come on to covering that. I think then it's probably worth mentioning as well, as you move on to the under 13 level after that, you'll find that the players, because they've got the basic understanding of the technicalities, or you hope they would have by the age of 13, by that age, you often find that drills that are set up to find out the answers and allow players to explore, discovery learning, if you like, are easier to administer in your club sessions, because the players have got, there's going to be a wider range of knowledge there between the players that are involved. There's also going to be a higher skill set and what we call, I'd say, slightly more, as the late Graham Dilley called it when I was playing under him, ITCs, independent thinking cricketers. And I think that's where you start once you get into the ages, some 11-year-olds, but 12, 13, the guys can actually then lead it themselves a lot more. So I would steer away by going completely down the model of doing, games, and no actual coaching. And the final point I want to sort of leave you with, Michael, is that the one thing we can never get away with cricket is that there is elements of listening and patience involved. Now, having taught myself, after my playing days, having taught myself for a number of years, as well as doing cricket in a school, one thing I can honestly say is that the educational system now teaches these guys to do, can't sit still, not allowed any downtime, must be doing, can't have any breaks in the lessons, has to be transitions between each activity, do. Now that's great, but in cricket, you are never going to get away from the fact that patience and the ability to listen and stand still are required. And I think that we have to remember as cricket coaches that we are battling against this educational approach in a way which suggests that learning through discovery, very little downtime in their lessons, everything's all singing, all dancing, I think is what I'm trying to say. So bear that in mind and don't be afraid to bring the guys in, talk to them, get your point over. Don't worry that you are not actually delivering. Some of the feedback I've had from guys who have done their level 2 experience with us as a business, you'll read comments and you'll see comments that, well, what were they doing at that point? Where was the transition to the next point? Could they have been doing something during that time? Well, yes, but the argument I'd always give is that, well, how's a youngster going to occupy themselves between balls if they're fielding at cover and it's a 9-ball over by young Johnny who, is taking an age to get his run-up marked out and so-and-so's picking daisies at point. There has to be a point where in junior cricket, the guys learn patience and concentration. If they can't, then cricket is not going to be a lifelong game for them. But that's a different discussion. Okay. Michael, I hope that does answer those bits. If there is anything more, I'll happily answer it. And I hope the rugby comparison was useful to you and a few guys can get some use of that. Right. Our next question was, this is an interesting one. So coaching when we get back up and running, June, July, a condensed season potentially. This is really interesting, wasn't it? At the moment, none of us know what's happening. Now, having been through, I guess you could look at a period of injury, for example, for a player. So if a player was injured, then there is nothing more they could be doing other than the rehab they were given. So I was thinking about this the other day, and although lockdown isn't rehab, and we know it's not, it's probably the closest thing a player has come to it, because they can't be doing necessarily their technical skills, or in the early stages of rehab they can't be. And it's a case of, well, what can they be doing? And the one non-negotiable at times like this that you can be doing is your conditioning and your cricket fitness. So my suggestion would be at the moment is that if you are maintaining your baseline of your CV fitness, so you guys are doing that. Now, that's all very well to say, but if you're at your local village club on a Friday night and you game, with your under-13 side and you've got games, you're relying on these players to have done that themselves. The one thing there is not, in my opinion, time for when we get back up and running is to spend your sessions doing things that you might have done in the pre-season stage. So let's imagine you've been outside from mid-April. You may have done a couple of conditioning sessions. You might have done a couple of what I call extended warm-ups at club training, where the guys are doing slightly more intense work, getting them used to being outside on the softer ground, turning for their ones, turning for their twos and threes. That's always a good one to get. The calves and the ankle stability used to turning again outside on grass, very different to indoors. So I think that you can actively, those who are coaches and managers of their club sides, you can actively be influencing your players by signposting them to useful ways of keeping up their fitness. A little Joe Wicks workout or some cricket. There's loads of stuff on the internet, cricket fitness. If you're doing something as simple as sets of lunges and squats and core work, if you can maintain your lunges, your squats, so you're looking at your glutes, your thighs, your core, along with shoulder stability work, and it's not difficult to do. Look it up: shoulder stability, core, squats, lunges. They are your key single leg squats as well, probably each side. If you can be doing that, which doesn't need a lot of space, then your cricket related muscles are going to be ticking over. The bottom line is that you're never going to replicate that feeling of having been out for 3 or 4 hours on a game first day of the season. That will never happen. So regarding what you can be doing, that's one thing I'd be encouraging your players to be doing, okay, before we get out there. Obviously, there's a number of things you can be doing at home. I'm coming on to that later. Now, once we get outside, so let's say clubs, schools, etc., players get the green light in second week in July, start of the summer holidays. And the season runs from second week in July till end of September, for example, okay? Your first session has to be, your first few sessions outside, skill-based heavy. Get the guys hitting balls, get them bowling balls, okay? Whilst week one of your session plan may well say front foot drive and warm-up and fielding practice, that's great, and it is great, it's all important. But intensity is important, intensity of the session. With everything you do, if you've got a small amount of time, but skill-based heavy work. That means hitting lots of balls, bowling lots of balls. The best thing you could possibly do, for me, is get on grass. Okay, groundsmen, you have no excuse this season. Okay, you have never been more prepared for a season. Okay, it looks like Lord's, your local village club at the moment. Okay, every one of them, because you can only mow a blade of grass so many times. So do not accept you can't get a grass wicket this year to get out on. So if you can make sure you've got a grass wicket to get on for that first club session, be it an under 11s, under 13s, whatever, that is worth its weight in gold. Okay, worth its absolute weight in gold. So if you can get that, fantastic. I've just got another comment here. James Caldwell. James, Dorset Minor Counties cricketer. Used to coach him Sharpen. Good to see you, James. Nice to check in with us. Excellent. Right, so hopefully that covers that side of things. What I would also recommend is if you can get the players back into good habits, so your younger players spend time with them focusing on the basics such as walking in, game management, getting between overs, talking about that sort of things, fundamentals of the way you want to approach your games. So in your evening T20 games for juniors, for example, batting, what's a good score? Can we get 100? Can we get 120? Can we have a couple of partnerships? If we lose a wicket, can we not lose the next wicket for another over? Bowling wise, if we can make sure that we bowl the first ball of the over well and the last ball, then we can get, hopefully get in and out the over well. If you can string 4 dot balls together, all these basic messages you can be getting over to the guys whilst they are practicing and training. So don't underestimate the value of some really simple, strong messages to your players and sticking to them. Don't overcomplicate. The time's not there. Okay, they've been playing COD, they've been playing Flappy Birds, all that stuff that goes on with the kids, I don't really know. Your focus, get them back into thinking about cricket. Okay, that's a challenge. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question as to getting guys back into cricket. I suppose there's another way of looking at it as a player, isn't there? So for those adults and slightly older players, and if you're looking at this from a playing side of things, if you've got limited time to get back into it, there are two real key things I think you need to bear in mind. Number one, you don't become a bad player overnight. So if you've not picked up a bat, picked up a ball for a long time, that might be a positive. Okay, I always viewed that if I've not played for a while, that's a positive. Why? Well, you might think why, and very simple for me. Cricket's about form. If you can't remember the last time you picked up a bat or ball, you've not got any form. Therefore, you don't know if you're in bad form. Interesting way of looking at it, quite an effective way. So don't put too much pressure on yourself of having had a break. Breaks can often be positive. And also, I think that, so breaks can be positive. And secondly, when you do get out there, trust in your instinct. So in the sense of batting, watch the ball, trust your instinct. You've not become a bad player. Trust your basic instinct of watching the ball and bowling the ball. That means batters, nice and relaxed, clear mind, watch the ball. Things like a routine, clear mind, self-talk, anything like that that's going to allow you to free up your the thinking side of the brain to occupy that and actually allow your instincts to take over. Bowling wise, again, rhythm. Big thing I think with bowlers, if you can just stay nice and relaxed in your movements, you will allow your natural body movements to take over and your muscle memory will kick in. So I think that as a player is a big thing. It's more a mental thing. You've not become a bad player overnight. You're not going to have forgotten how to play cricket. It's a case of when you get out there, I guess the one thing, positive and committed to everything you do. So when you're out there, if you're a batter, if you're getting half movements, your footwork's not committed, if you're not committing to attacking shots, if you're not positive in your defensive shots, bowling if you're not finishing off your action, if you're not hitting the pitch, fielders if you're not hitting the gloves hard, that's when you'll start to see problems. So chill out, relax, and remember, everybody else is in the same position. So if you look at a relative scale, you've not practiced, nor's he, nor she, nor's he, and nor's everybody. So actually, unless they've been doing some miraculous practice that no one else knows of, it's all pretty much a level anyway from where you're at. So do not stress is a big thing. Hopefully that answers that one. Next question. I've had one come in here. Andy Knight, a friend of mine down in Somerset. Morning, Tom. Do you think we will see any club cricket this year? Andy, I don't know. I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that if the ECB give the green light to professional cricket, that there may be club cricket. The issue I guess you've got with that is that they could argue that the professional cricket would be more stringent in their ability to manage interaction, social distancing, etc., because it's slightly more formal and organised. I think it would be hard to give the green light to professional cricket and not club cricket. The big worry for clubs, obviously, is a financial situation. So I'd encourage clubs to look at the grants that are available. There are a number of grants available from the ECB. I do know that. I've seen the information on that. So if you want any more information on that, drop us a message after and I can signpost you to that. I think where the issues come with clubs is clubs that pay rent on grounds. I don't think that private clubs are probably slightly better off. I think clubs that pay rent on grounds, be it annually or 6 monthly, that's where the struggle is, I think, because they've still got their overheads and players, memberships, subs, etc. A lot of clubs have already bought balls and things back in February. So, it's a tough time for clubs. I think clubs do need to play some cricket this year to at least soften the blow of the effect. Many clubs should be looking at friendly 20-over matches or 40-over matches. That's interesting, isn't it? Because if you're going to do a league, you've got to do it properly. There has to be some formality to it. I think if you don't do a league, it's the option of getting into games between friendly clubs. Friendly matches between clubs. That will no doubt happen, Andrew. And I suspect there may suddenly be an increase in guys that want to make themselves available for Sunday cricket as well, which no doubt clubs may benefit from longer term, which would be a real positive on that, wouldn't it? Because obviously Sunday cricket and availability, sometimes they struggle with that, clubs do. Hi Tom, what advice can I do with 2 dodgy knees? Thanks for that. I think that's Jan. Thanks, Jan. Hendo, right, I'll come to your question. So Hendo, I think your question was, how can more elite players be fully prepared? I think I like to think we've answered that, mate, really. I think that the fortunate position you're in, Martin, is that you've got access to various support which are around. And I know, for example, in your case, you've been making the most of them people that are around. And I think that those guys who are in county pathways or international pathways or anything like that, if you're in a pathway of some sort, you'd hope that there would be measures in place with things like your conditioning, slightly more directives, things you can be doing, checking in with your coaches, your mentors, etc. So I think at this time, the guys who are representative cricketers in pathways, etc., have certainly got a slight upper hand because purely of their support network they've got around them and some of the great things that are going on online and things. So other than doing everything you can to make sure that you're ready to go when you get the green light, I think Gareth Batty, I saw something, the Surrey spinner, said all they are doing as a squad, Surrey, is staying as fit and as ready as possible, because once the green light goes, they've got no choice but to be. So, sorry I can't sort of give you more on that, Martin, because we're not got a time scale, but I think that we've probably covered that earlier. Michael, I'll come back to that shortly. I'd like to go for questions we've had sent in. Behaviour management for coaches. That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we often get asked this from different clubs that we work at and sessions that we run. If we ever run a coach's training session or seminar, one of the questions we get is, Tom, there's 20 kids, 3 of them are larking around. That means 3 of their mates are larking around. 2 others in each of the 3. That's a load of kids we've got in the session. Nearly half the kids now that aren't paying attention. What do I do? There's one lad, he keeps disrupting. This is a common one, or girl, and he keeps disrupting the session. I think that one of the most effective behavioural management tools I've probably used, there are 2, I'd say. Number one is making sure that you're prepared in your session. So if you have a clear plan of what you want to do in your head, it doesn't always have to be shared with players. I think that's another thing that, you look at the government in education, and it's about state your aims, state your aims, state your aims. Yeah, great. In a coaching session, it doesn't always happen like that. And the problem if you state your aims as a coach at the start of the session to the players, especially youngsters, is that you're accountable to delivering all their aims. Now, if something works really badly and you decide to move it on quickly in the session, players might go, well, we've not spent a lot of time on that. And the flip side, if something works really well in your coaching session, it doesn't give you the flexibility to roll with it and let it run. So that's a really interesting point with stating aims in the session. I think I'll just come back to that. Yeah, and the second one is if you can give, I always find that if you can give a let's call it a disruptive, politically correct, a disruptive player in your session a role. Now, that doesn't mean, go and pick up the cones. I'm not saying a punishment role, but a proactive role. So their job might be to be the wicketkeeper in a drill. Their job might be to explain the key points of what you've just said to the rest of the players. Their job might be to try and come up with a different way of doing the drill. Their job might be to try and offer up a variation to doing an exercise or drill. And I think that not only can empower the disruptive children in the session, but you're also getting more buy-in from them. Not only that, you're giving them a sense of responsibility. You're also giving them perhaps some of the attention that they need without necessarily disrupting or not giving it to the rest of the children in the session. I think that's really important, that the one disruptive child or player doesn't detract from the rest of the players which are entitled to your services as well. I think from a coaching approach, and I know Scott Green's on here at the moment, and Scott's at Uppingham. Uppingham are excellent in their approach to this, which is parents stay and watch the session. If your child disrupts the session, bang, you're out the session. One strike, off you go. Okay? And that's not for discussion. That's not for debate. And actually, it's a far better way, in my mind, of controlling the session. If the players think that they're there for a bit of a jolly, drop and go service, bit of a laugh, bit of a joke, which is great, where there's always a time for that. But if players think that's all the session's about and there is no consequence to their actions, then they're not going to want to buy in or behave. So, it's important to have that conversation, I think, as well with your club and your head of junior coaching or head of the juniors or whoever, or the chairman if that's not available, and say, look, what is our approach as a club going to be to guys who disrupt sessions, and get that transparency, get a code of conduct pinned up on the pin board in the clubhouse, get an email out to parents. No excuse not to communicate it now. These days it's very easy to do. And so it's transparent, so that, if Mrs. Bloggs complains why a child got sent off back to the pavilion in the session, well, the fact that he'd interrupted the coach twice, or he was disrupting the learning of everyone else, then it's pretty transparent, pretty fair. So give them a job, empower them. Don't be afraid to make them speak in front of the group. That's a good one, because those who are extremely keen to want to talk, funnily enough, when they get the opportunity to talk on their own in front of the group, they don't want to. And I find that's an excellent tool at making a child just perhaps simmer down slightly in a session without taking it too far and keeping it appropriate. Michael sorry, Scott. Is a council fund if you're a registered business? Oh, Christ. Are you talking, Scott, about cricket clubs? Can you get back to me on that and just put a comment in there? I really hope you're not talking about our business because, yeah, it's been nothing short of a bit of a nightmare. But, you know, guys like yourselves have been fantastic at supporting and engaging and keeping the ship afloat, really, and keeping the interest. So thanks to everyone that continues to support our business. But, Scott, if you can come back to me, Scott Green, that is, on what, just clarify that question, mate. Okay, next question. Let's take one that's come in. Would you use peer-to-peer with disruptive kids, i.e. get them to help run a session? Yes, totally, Michael. I think that's a fantastic approach. I think if you can get youngsters designing a session or giving them a role or demonstrations are always good. I struggle to get past that, you know. Get the ones that want to talk. Most disruption is a low-level disruption. It's not kids, you know, getting kids in headlocks or anything. It's low-level disruption. So I think that very simple. Keep it. Give them a role. Get them talking in front of their peers. Okay, the ones that disrupt to low-level talking are the ones that are not often happy to talk in front of their peers. If they are, great, because you're giving them a role. Giving them a job, and they're focused on task. Peer-to-peer, yeah. I guess another good one would be with that, Michael, is if you were to get players to offer feedback as well. So within your groups, you could nominate certain players to be the team captain of that group, you know, if you're doing team fielding drills, for example, and their job is to find one improvement, for example, with the drill, or one improvement in each of their team members, and they must say it in a way that identifies where they need to get better, identifies the issue, and get them used to delivering it in a way that is constructive and positive and helpful, because that also means that they're probably going to get a bit more respect from their peers by coming over a little bit better and actually feeling like they're being listened to and helpful and useful. Why kids misbehave is a different conversation, and we're not going to go into that today. Okay, next question. Where are we at? Next question would be, you over this time. We might see an uptake in juniors trying out cricket for the first time, as we could be the first sport able to get going straight away after lockdown, and think clubs could be open to finding, should be open to finding a way to action and plan this. Discussing about how to cope with increase in numbers. Oh, that's interesting. So, I think that's a really interesting one, because obviously, you're right. We are, as a sport, we are next off the conveyor belt, if you like, when it comes to what should be getting back up and running ASAP. Again, I'll use the rugby football analogy. There's not the physical contact, so things like, distancing, etc., should be easier to monitor and manage. That should help. Regarding how clubs can, what does that say? Open to find action plan, open to find a way, and be discussing about how to cope with more newcomers. I hope that guys that that keen to get back involved in cricket and get out there and doing things, that numbers are big. Will it see a spike in juniors? I'm not sure it might. I'm not sure it's going to result in more guys and girls taking cricket up. But that said, if it does, I guess the thing you're talking about there, Scott, is bigger groups. And the key with bigger groups for me is you've got your lead coach and you've got your support coaches. Now, a big group, if you look at your ratios, if you've got a group of 25, you'd probably be looking at 3 coaches, you'd hope, for a group of 25, 2 to 3 coaches. Now, the one tip I've got, Scott, really, for yourself or for any coaches in these situations is you need to have somebody who is prepared to head the session up. If you do not have a coach who is happy to head the session up and other coaches are happy for them to do that, then what you end up with is lots of fragmentation, lots of individual coaches doing their own thing, and there's not that collectiveness to the session. So I think this is dead straightforward, is that in your club, you sit down with your coaches, you say, right, this is the way, this is how I see it working, this is the plan we've got. For tonight, for example, there's 25. I'll head it up, guys. I'll direct it. I'll lead it. Or you can direct it, you lead it, and we will support and offer our assistance in that. If that conversation doesn't happen, and it might be a different coach each night. It might be a different coach at each session that you might have. But if that conversation doesn't happen at your club or it doesn't happen at your session, what you end up with is 2 or 3 different coaches, and cricket attracts egos, we know that, who have got their ideas, got their way, you've got no consistency, you've got a fragmented session, it just doesn't work. So large numbers, get some direction, get a lead coach nominated. It doesn't have to be can be a volunteer coach, a private coach, doesn't matter. Get somebody who's prepared to head that session up, so at least people know who is accountable for the plan, for the transitions, for the timings, etc., etc. Okay. Hopefully that helps, Scott. As I say, I'm not sure numbers will be spiking, but we can hope. It'll be nice. Where are we now? Okay, I'll come back to another we had. Sorry, I've got with the builders are next door and they're making a right racket. I'm not sure what's going on. Preparing your kit is quite an interesting one, isn't it? So preparing your kit bag for game days. Now, I think probably at the age of 14, I switched from putting all my kit in one bag, which was playing kit and whites and whatever else you've got in there. And the best advice I've got with this, really, and a lot of adults will know this because they do it anyway, but for juniors, I think, as well, as you start to move into 13s, 14s and a bit older, you've got your cricket bag, that's got all your sweaty kit in, or your damp kit, or, you know, if you've played in a bit of a damp game and it's rained a bit. So what you don't want to be doing is mixing all your kit in together, getting it all messed up and lost, etc. So my big advice with this would be the following. You've got your kit bag, get a small shoulder bag or a little duffel, something like that, shoulder strap bag that you've got all your clothing in for the game, your cap, your sun cream, your bottle, anything else you might need, any energy bars, anything you might need for the game that's not cricket equipment goes in your little bag. There it is, it's separated, it's neat, it's tidy, everything's there, you know where it is, your towel or whatever. In your cricket bag, that is just equipment. So in a typical cricket bag, all your playing kit. I'd also have a back cone, spare spikes, that's individual spikes, not pairs of spikes, and a stud tightener. I'd have potentially a knocking in mallet because some of them double up as back cones, but that's entirely up to you. I'd have a small towel in case you need to dry the ball at a game. I'd have a spare grip for a bat. I'd carry a little bit of electrical tape as well, a little roll of electrical tape. Again, that can be very useful for taping anything, but more importantly, if your grip goes, for taping up your grip. What else in a typical cricket bag? A couple of old balls you'd want, maybe for your throwdowns and stuff. Mark them up with your own initials on so that no one gets them lost. And that's about it, really. And what that allows you to do is keep your kit separate from game day, from your playing kit. There's your playing kit, and there's your clothing, etc. So hopefully that's useful. Big thing people forget, afterwards, if you've played a game, flip-flops, fresh pair of socks, right? Always useful, just to wear the feet straight after a game. Nothing worse than damp socks. Hopefully that's useful, and thanks for the question that came in. Cricket at home, interesting one. So we spoke a bit earlier about what you can be doing. We spoke about the physical things. There is cricket at home you can be doing. So things like drills in the garden. I mean, the stuff that's going out there on YouTube has been excellent. Some of the videos I've seen and some of the drills that we've seen are really, really good. Again, if you've not got a garden, that ain't easy. Top 3 sort of batting drills I've seen myself. Ball under your chin, get in your stance, release the ball, drive it on the second bounce. I'd say that's a really good one. That can be done with top-handed work as well. So just your top hand, take your bottom hand off the bat or behind your back. That's really useful. I'd also encourage guys. I saw a really good one at the Surrey Academy yesterday on their Twitter, and their one was about playing spin and getting the bat out in front of the pad. What I really liked about that drill, Matt Spriegel, an ex-player I used to play with, he's their head coach, and what he suggested was really good about getting your hands out in front of your pad but still playing the ball under your head. And what that meant you did was get a bigger stride. And by getting a bigger stride, it really emphasises the position that you're in and exaggerates it. So anything you can do like that gets a bigger stride and over-exaggerates a typical cricketing position is going to help you for when you get outside, because then you're going to find it easier to get into that position. Okay, that's useful. I also saw a really nice little sweep drill, which was basically just a bobble feed, and guys were either using the pace, so just letting the ball hit the bat and deflecting it, or getting their arms extended. Again, done from a lunge position, so it doubles up as a very, very good conditioning exercise. Head low to the ball, try and kiss the ball, extend your arms, and get you through the shot. Okay, so that's really nice. Two really nice drills there. 3 really nice batting drills there. Bowling is slightly harder. Again, you could do the isolate the elbow and a bit of wrist strengthening. I think the shoulder activation we spoke about would be really useful with the bowlers. But again, that ain't easy, is it? To bowl off a full run-up is not easy at the moment. Whatever you do, though, try and make the most of it. Fielding's probably easier. There's some really good YouTube videos out there on fielding, catching drills, little reaction drills that don't require a lot of space. Ben, on that note, actually, Ben has been uploading a lot of footage and different things you can be doing on our YouTube channel. So please do go and have a look at that. There's some really nice little drills on there. I've also we've been putting out some really good materials that you can be doing inside. So if the weather does change and we lose the sun during lockdown, or if guys are coming inside and getting bored about being out in the garden, etc., there's a really nice pack from 360 Cricket. Again, you can look at our if you look at our website or social media, link into that, and it explains how you can go about acquiring that pack, and it's really good. It's done by different levels, age groups, etc. Nice progressive sessions and a really nice support to when we go outside. Use the time. I think this is what's really important. Use the time to sharpen up your cricket knowledge. By that, I mean, do you know all the positions, or does your players know all the positions? Can you set a field? Because that's something that rarely happens. You say to a youngster, do you want a short third man or not? And they'll look at you gone out. You say to a youngster on a rugby field, go and play inside centre, and I'm looking for the crash ball. Oh yeah, know what that is. So interesting how guys perceive it as on a cricket field, because it's very much lagging behind the rugby and the football when it comes to player knowledge from a young age. So get guys setting fields, get kids writing it down, things like that. But yeah, take a look at them packs. They're really useful. I mean, they don't have to go with them. There's loads of useful things online, great material. But yeah, just spend time. And I did make a note before today about cricket. Let's have a look. Yeah, just watch. There's so much good stuff out there, YouTube and things like that have looked at old games and the best shots of all time, best catching. Just spend time with youngsters watching these videos and try and pick out the basic points that you then teach them. So if it's your child or your youngsters, pick out the basics if you're confident to do that. Or if you're not, ask them. Or, watch this video, that was a great shot. Why? What did they do well? A lot of you guys have been doing homeschooling, etc., and same sort of techniques. Really, try and provoke some thought and some questioning around the cricket and what they're doing. If you're not comfortable with that, if you're not a coach, if you're just a parent, that's fine as well. Basically, get them watching cricket. Okay, I look back with me and my brother. We learnt so much by just watching cricket. It's something that, despite all the technology now and despite the amount of games that are shown on telly and different platforms and streaming and all that, every game's accessible everywhere. It's something that, again, it comes back to the patience and the, sitting and watching and not have to be doing all the while. It comes back to that side of things. A little bit of time spent watching sport, and parents aren't always going to like to hear this, but in the nicest way, but a bit of time watching sport, you can learn so much about cricket, listening to the commentary, listening to, and not only that, but seeing it is 10 times as more powerful as being told it. So if a youngster sees what the coach has been telling them for X amount of years, or a youngster sees something in action, then they're more likely to, you're getting it validated, and in turn, they're more likely to remember it and hopefully put it into practice. Hopefully that's useful on... I've got another question here, and it is, how have coaches coped with lockdown? That's a really interesting... So, yeah, it's been difficult, we're not going to lie. So the team, my team has, we've been really proactive in the way we've coped with lockdown, trying to reach out to different people, the clubs we work with. We've revisited session plans. We've tried to improve our delivery. Really tried, I think, just to reflect on what it is we currently do and how we can do it better. And I think that's human nature within coaches to want to do that, to look at what you do and review it, plan it, and then obviously wait to put it into practice. So I think that's something that we're now looking forward to doing, is actually seeing the improvements in that. What else have we been doing? Like you guys, we've been probably watching a bit of cricket. We've been following social media, etc., and trying to pick up some tips and different things like that. Relabeling all your kit, that's something you can do as coaches, auditing your kit, seeing what you've got, cleaning it up, labeling it back up. That's what you can do. And one I've always tried to do, especially the business, is that we've got a lot of contacts within coaching and a network of coaches. So we very much spent time talking to other coaches, talking to other coaching companies, reading coaching articles, sharing good practice. And actually, I've got a couple of guys who I use as mentors, really, within the coaching world. So I'll bounce ideas off them, be it coaching, be it business, delivery, whatever it might be. I think it's really important as a coach that you identify someone who... they don't even have to know they're your mentor, but it helps. But if they're happy to have them conversations with you and support you and provide you honest feedback, that's often really good. You don't want someone that says, "Oh, what do you think of this?" "Oh, yeah, it's great. Brilliant." Because if you get that every time, that's not honest, that's not constructive. So find someone that's going to give you honest, constructive feedback and bounce ideas off them. That's what we do. That's what I tend to do. And that's really helpful. Someone that you trust, someone that knows you, and just share things, share ideas, share content, because ultimately there are no secrets in the coaching world when it comes to content. There are ways you can deliver that content, and that's the art of coaching. give Peter Moores, the ex-England coach, give him 3 basic points on batting to deliver, and the way he would deliver that would be far superior to the way that a novice coach would deliver the 3 points, because it's the art of delivering it. So I think that's sort of answered that one. And just like everyone else, just trying to stay proactive, staying positive, keeping busy, I think is really crucial. As coaches, we're people's people. We want to be out there. We want to be talking. We want to be interacting. We want to be mixing. That's been probably the hardest part, is not interacting and mixing with our cricketing community, with you guys. That's been the hardest part. So lots of calls, lots of video calls, lots of positivity, lots of chats, just whatever you can do just to keep the cricket sort of flame burning. I say, just keep the cricket flame burning. If you can do that, and you can stay positive. I just want to make sure that when we get the green light, whenever that might be, that as a coach, I'm ready to go. And that's probably the best advice. If we're giving that advice to our players, then certainly we should be probably into that advice ourselves. So that was a question there at the end. I think that perhaps finishes all we've got. I'm not sure if there's any more that we've been sent in. Oh, Shrey, yeah. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us, Shrey. So I hope it's been useful, our Facebook Live webinar today. Thanks for everyone that has sent in their pre-questions. I hope that it gave you an insight into coach's mind, if you like, and what you were looking to get out of it. I hope you got that. We may well do another one like this, depending on the feedback. It'd be great to get your thoughts on how you feel today has gone. Try to keep pretty relaxed and just talk to you guys and share my thoughts. But it would be really useful to have some feedback. That's really kind of you guys, Martin and Fran. Thank you very much, Fran, from Bowden Cricket Club. Very kind of you, Fran. Hope to catch up with you guys soon, and the seniors there. But yeah, it'd be really good to get some feedback, because it'd be nice to do something like this maybe next week, if you found it useful and with some different topics and different questions. Just before you go, a couple of bits that I'd like to share with you. If you want the more content or things like ideas for lockdown or anything, visit our website and or our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter. Guys are pretty good at keeping that updated for us. Visit the social media or the Facebook or the website, and you'll find all the content there linked. Video footage, ideas for lockdown, preparing, anything you can think of. So thanks again, guys. Really appreciated those who have took the time out of their day to join in today's session. Stay safe, keep your families safe, and remember that the efforts you're all investing in this bizarre and strange time will be worth it, because it will mean we can get out on the field a little bit quicker. So thanks very much, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day. Catch you soon. Cheers.